Hello and welcome to episode 1233 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, December 1st. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning. It's December. Can you believe it?
Good morning. I can believe it's December. I mean, not really. I mean, the off season's starting to go by really, really fast. Like,
It's blazing. I mean, that's not bad, right? I can't wait to get back to baseball, but I can't believe it. I really can't believe that it's already December. And, I've been saying this last two episodes. I'm going to say it one more time because well, maybe not by the next episode. By this time next week, we'll start to see if that's true. But this time last year was when things really perked up. Will we get that? There's no guarantees. But as I mentioned, I was looking at old pods and I just saw that around this time, early December, we had like 3 back-to-back pods that had several big signings or trades in them. And I'm hoping that we get that because we've been in a little bit of a lull. Like there's been trickles and, Nola re-signing and the Cardinals being active and my Tigers making a couple of solid moves. But it's been quiet. We're hearing rumblings. Winter meetings start soon. Do you think we're going to get the wave at the winter meetings?
yes, I think we
so
are.
too. I really do. And it's not just wishful thinking. I think there's a lot of stuff that's percolating and it will be finalized there.
And there's just not that many amazing free agents this year. So it's not going to take much to get things really going. And I mean, for the most part, we've already had a bunch of free agent signings. So even Nick Martinez signed.
He signed with the Reds. I didn't put him on the rundown because when a pitcher goes to the Reds,
kind of hurts. Yeah.
I mean, I like
he's
Nick
a starter
Martinez. For them, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think there's a lot of other places he could have signed where he's a swingman type, but I think for the Reds, Nick Martinez starts. And, again, I have some intrigue with him, but you put people in that park and we keep calling it Coors Jr. and all that. Then I'm going to treat the pitchers the same way I treat the hitters when they go to Coors. So, a hitter goes there to Cincy, I'm in inherently. I want to see what's up with them. I'm going to take a look. And then when the pitcher goes there, my instinct is out. And then I have to reassess and maybe get in on some of them. And right now, I just don't really see it with Nick Martinez. Not the best spot he could have landed.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm maybe willing to take a dart throw on him in draft champions because I think he'll stick in that rotation. That. So, but other than that, I think. I mean, I'll do my projections and decent home run rate in San Diego. Gotta expect it's going to go up. And how much damage does that do to the ERA with it going up? So,
and that's the tough part for Nick Martinez. So, not a bad signing by them. They got to get arms, and he's a quality arm. And if they can get mid-4s ERAs out of their guys, they should have enough offense that actually keeps them kind of competitive. But we don't get scaled ERAs for fantasy. So even though a 450 in Cincy plays, it's still a 450 in our game.
Yeah, the Steamer has him for 473. I don't know that I'd go that high, but
me neither.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes with him. But we do have a couple of things to talk about. One big signing, or at least could be big. We'll see how healthy this guy stays. And then a huge rookie signing for a guy who hasn't even debuted. And that's going to be our springboard into our main topic today about discussing drafting guys with zero MLB experience. These last couple of years of rookie classes have been truly historic. We have new rules that encourage teams to maybe not be as shisty with keeping their guys down. And as such, I think players are taking bigger opportunities with rookies in drafts. I think they're going to feel more justified to do it in the draft champions with the 50-round draft and hold, although you and I have talked about you got to be careful with that. You get 4 of those guys on your team, you pile up a few injuries, and all of a sudden you can't fill a roster. So you do have to be careful with it, but we're going to talk about it. But first, let's talk about Luis Severino, staying in New York, but heading to the Mets. And obviously, I preface this by saying it could be a big signing if he stays healthy. I know that's going to be your biggest if. But when you first saw this, Luis Severino to the Mets, what were your initial thoughts?
I love this. I absolutely love this. He stays in New York, but he goes to the much better park. Mm-hmm. We talked about, park factors last episode, and the Mets had the 19th best park factors for right-handed pitching. And the Yankees had the 3rd worst. So
and a better division of parks too, right? Because then you're going
to Miami
and which is pitcher friendly. I think Washington's neutral leaning hitters. It kind of varies,
Well,
to be honest. It was running hitters. Go ahead.
Washington, Atlanta are both in the top 10 for hitters,
Okay.
for left-handed hitters. But the Marlins and the Phillies. No, I guess it's not.
Philly's got to be up there too. But then
Phillies is 4.
where's Boston, Toronto, and I guess Baltimore is not as scary of a park anymore. So maybe it's neutral. Maybe it's neutral on that.
Yeah.
But what about the offense is contained within them, right? Like, because you're not scared of Washington. You're not scared of Miami. You are scared of Atlanta and Philly, of course, and he plays for the Mets. You would be scared of the O's, Rays, Jays, and Red Sox. So maybe still a slight net benefit there. But with Severino specifically, we know it's health, right? Let me get you his ADP so I can ask if you're drafting him. We know that you have to consider the health as the biggest issue. I think it's baked into the price at $321. So I don't really want to hear people saying that because, yes, that's why you're getting him at $321. So then my question is to you, taking all that into consideration, the fact that you love the move, I'm going to guess, I'm not even going to ask, I'm going to guess that you are interested then in Luis Severino at $321.
I'm interested in leagues where I can drop him, right?
So not DCs.
Not so much DCs, not so much gladiators. Definitely not gladiators. Definitely
no. 0% gladiator for me with Severino, unless they have gladiators in the spring and I see him cooking in spring. And even then, I still would be cautious about it, but I'd be more interested.
They won't have them in the spring.
They won't have them. No. They would take an extenuating circumstance. So you're talking standard drafts.
Yeah.
What's the shallowness? Are you taking him in a 12 Luis Severino with 7 to 10 reserve picks?
Yeah, because that's an easy first cut. Like, I mean, if he goes out there and looks bad in spring, or gets beat up in his first outing, like he's just an easy cut. The question though is he moving to a team that's not going to be competing? Because it's really hard to know what the Mets are going to do. Like someone asked me in my chat on Monday, what. Do you think the Mets are going for it, or do you think they're going to start the rebuild? Or they asked me what I would do, actually, is what they asked me. And I said, you go all in for Ohtani, and if you don't get him, then you tear it down to the ground.
What about Yamamoto? You tear it down?
Tear it down.
That's an insane take. How do you tear it down as the Mets? You have too much foundation. Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, McNeil, Marte that they've got like money tied into, Senga, Diaz coming back. That's an insane take. I think you got to go for Ohtani, Yamamoto. Push in for them. The tough part is that Ohtani, with not being able to pitch this year, doesn't help their biggest need. They need pitching. The Mets do. They got Senga, Quintana, Severino. I mean, Senga, I think, is pretty trustworthy. I like him. But even Quintana at 35 has looked better the last 2 years, but he's 35. Severino, we just talked about his issues. And then we got McGill and Lucchesi penciled in behind them. That's suspect. So if they don't get Yamamoto and Ohtani, I don't think they're going to tear it down. That's what you would do. Fair enough. What do you think they actually do then if they don't get one of those big dogs? Do they supplement?
They live in the land of mediocrity.
And get like some Kyle Gibson types, even though the guy himself is already scooped.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, maybe they go all in on Blake Snow, which would be good for him, good for them. But man, I don't know what they do. Like, there's just not. This is not the year to need to reload. Like, there's a few really good marquee free agents, as there always are. And there's a bunch of crap, do they get in the trade market then? Should they be talking to the White Sox about Cease? They absolutely should be in the trade market. And they've been aggressive in the trade market in the past. So wouldn't surprise me if they go out, like if they went after Corbin Burns, or if they went after Cease or Glasnow. I think any of those three. It would make a lot of sense and make their team look a little bit better. They also have to give these young players a chance to play, right? Like, I agree. Give all these young guys that they've got for cheap an opportunity to see what they have in them. So I think this is more of a transition year for them. than anything, because I don't think they'll tear it down to the ground, and I don't think they're going to land Ohtani. So,
Yeah, I don't think
maybe
so
it's
either.
just kind of a transition year where they're going to be mediocre, but they'll get more information about where they're at.
Yeah, I think that's fair with regards to the Mets. Cohen has laid the groundwork for that by saying we're not going to be pushing until 25. I think so that if he doesn't get Ohtani or Yamamoto, he can really peel back and not have to go after Snell and the consolation prizes in the market and give himself some protection there. But I don't know that fans are going to accept that. So we'll see how that goes with them. Let's get into this Jackson Chourio situation that we hinted at earlier. The Milwaukee Brewers are finalizing a big deal with him. One of the premier prospects, top 5, pretty much anywhere you look, pretty much top 3, really. Looking at an 8-year, $82 million deal with a $2 million buyout on a pair of team options, which, if it's anything like the Albies deal, or most of these deals, those options will be very strong for the team, meaning that they'll probably pick those up as well. But yeah, I mean, this seems great. These are win-win for me. I never understood the people that are like, no, you got to bet on yourself and try to go for the big hit when you reach free agency. You know how much time it is between now and free agency? You get 82 mil right now if you're Jackson Chourio for your family at age 19, excuse me, with 6 games at AAA. And that way, if your knee explodes tomorrow, your family's set. And then if you are as good as everyone believes that you can be, you're still going to get a 9-figure deal down the line. How's this not a win-win? I love this for the Brewers and for Chourio. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I always am in favor of these kind of deals. I know that it means he's going to leave money on the table if he is a star, but ask Scott Kingery and John Singleton and Evan White, like, how they feel about their kind of pre-arb deals. And some of these guys are coming from like some of the poorest nations in the world. I can't remember where Chourio is from, but like these
Churio's
guys
from Venezuela. Not sure his financial status there, but the bottom line is this is life-changing money.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Fernando Tatis Jr. and you have a Fernando Tatis Sr., I get not doing this deal because you're okay. But a lot of these guys are like, from middle or extremely low income homes, and like, if I'm a upper middle class, household. If you offered me $80 million, even though I might be able to get $200 million later, like, I would take that $80 million in a heartbeat. Like, I think it's like, crazy. Like,
people also have to consider, like, when they're making league min, and now he's making 10 mil instead of 750,000. I mean, come on, man. And
plus, it gets him to the show sooner, and
that's the thing too.
Plays him for an organization that would have messed with his service time. I mean,
for sure, because they pinch pennies.
Yeah. The Brewers, just, non-tendered Brandon Woodruff, and they're talking about trading away Corbin Burns because they don't want to pay them. Right?
Exactly. Now, I still don't think that we're going to see Chourio necessarily break camp because, again, he'll be 20. He has a week at AAA. But it might be quick, and he might break camp, right? We're seeing these players set new boundaries with things, so you can't follow all the old timelines perfectly. And I'm not even going to be surprised if they're like, you know what, we signed him because we want him to come north with us immediately. Okay, I get it. I've been watching these games. We see these players doing this, so maybe that's the case. But I really, really like this. It's going to affect his draft stock. And again, this takes us into our big topic today of drafting untested rookies. So guys that haven't been in the major leagues at all. We're definitely seeing more of it. We'll start with Chourio. He's not the highest. Then we'll go in order of how they're being picked. But since we're talking Chourio, we should talk about his 211 ADP. Again, that's going to go up. Do you think he surpasses another big Jackson, the not consensus, I don't think, but very close to the consensus number 1 prospect, Jackson Holliday? Maybe he is. Maybe he is ranked number 1 everywhere. But either way, he's going at pick 192. Do you think Chourio leapfrogs Holliday?
I just want to point out that Jackson Chourio is now the second highest paid player on the Brewers.
Sweet.
and it's not particularly close. His average salary is double the third guy of Aaron Ashby.
Wow. So they are really stripped. I mean, and like you said, they're talking trading
Yeah,
Burns, and so they're going to be stripping this sucker down.
yeah. I think that he definitely could pass Holliday here at some point. Where did you say Holliday was going?
Holliday's 192, Chourio's
Yeah,
211, so it won't take that much.
He's gonna pass him for sure. Now,
Do you think he
I
should?
think I don't. I think Jackson
I don't
Holliday is a generational talent, and I think he's going to be up day one as well. I think both will likely push up as we start.
Do you think Holliday's breaking camp?
I think he is, yeah.
I mean, he's a monster. I don't even think you're completely out of pocket for saying that.
The Orioles were pretty aggressive with their guys last year. Like
he had a 4-level season. He got 2.5 weeks at AAA with 18 games there, 91 plate appearances. They fast-tracked him. I wouldn't be surprised. He'll be 20 himself. So one of those two 20-year-olds could easily break camp with their team. Both could.
I think Holliday has the better chance than Chourio.
I think so. I think so too. But although the tough part is the team context, you would think that would favor Chourio because Milwaukee, again, their outfield is a strength, so maybe not.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking like Baltimore has so much middle infield that maybe Holliday doesn't have an immediate fit. Of course, he does based on his talent and expectation, but they can finagle it where they're like, nah, we're going to stick with, Gunnar and Westberg up the middle, and we'll get Holliday up later. But we even have him penciled in on roster resource as the opening day shortstop Jackson Holliday. So I agree with you. I don't think Chourio should pass him in ADP. 211 versus 192 for Holliday. Chourio will almost certainly pass him. I think that'd be a bit of a mistake. Are you paying that 192 for Holiday at all, or anything around the 200 range?
Sure. Yeah.
You're in on that? Okay.
I'm not doing it in Gladiator because I just don't know exactly when he's going to be in. But I have no problem drafting Holiday, especially in like draft champions where I can plug in a Tim Anderson or whoever to like cover at shortstop until Holiday's ready.
I'm open to taking either Jackson, Chourio, or Holliday in draft champions. Even at that elevated price, I would have to have a particular team construction where I feel comfortable with it, but I'm not out on it, just because their talent is so high and the way we're seeing rookies contribute. This next guy, though, we have talked a bit about him at different times, but Wyatt Langford, his price is through the roof. Now, you talk about somebody who popped off last year. Dude was drafted last year and still had a 4-level season. Spent a few moments at the Complex League, then went high A, double A, triple A. Only got 5 games at triple A because his time was running out. I mean, if he'd had a little bit more time, he might have been in the majors with Evan Carter. I think we mentioned that during the playoffs. But he was blazing hot, just ripping through all these different leagues. At age 22, there's an even bigger expectation that Wyatt Langford could break camp. He's picked 138 on average. That's gotta be one of the highest ever for somebody who has not played a major league game, especially in winter drafts. It's a little bit different in March when a guy looks like he's going to break camp and people can feel more confident about him. But what about somebody who has not broken camp, not been on the major league team and is a top 150 pick? Am I crazy, or is Wyatt Langford the highest inexperienced guy ever?
I don't think he's the highest. I think Acuna was pretty high
before he ever played. Oh yeah, he was probably top 100, wasn't he?
Yeah, I remember getting in arguments with people about Acuna
But wasn't that in the spring that he got up to top 100?
Yeah,
I don't know if he was top.
And he got hurt, and so actually he got hurt in season. So, but.
It might not be Langford, but either way, what about Langford then? Because he's not penciled in. We don't have him. And I'm not saying that everything that Jason Martinez has on roster resource is Bible. He does excellent work, but of course, sometimes he's going with his best guess here. It's a Evan Carter, Leody Taveras, Adolis Garcia outfield. And I don't really think Wyatt Langford has to play over any of those three. We're Leody guys. Carter acquitted himself brilliantly. And of course, Adolis Garcia is not going anywhere. So does Langford even break camp? And then how are you paying 136 for a guy you got to wait on?
I'm not paying 136, but I think I would pay 150 and after.
So it's just a
I'm
round
pretty
hot
close
for you?
Yeah, it's about a round hot for me.
Okay.
I think once you start getting into like the 11th round of the 15-team draft, like I think I would take that gamble. I do think he's going to be up fairly quickly. The only issue is he's not like a premium defensive player, or at least it doesn't project as one.
And the other three are.
Yeah, and I think that is important to the Rangers. You look at like Garcia, you look at Tavares, like they're both very, very good defensive outfielders in that spacious outfield in Texas. So
Carter too. Don't sleep on Carter's defensive ability. He's strong out there as well. So they got three guys ready to rock out there. And then do you bring up a rookie like Langford to DH?
Yeah. So I'm a little bit more tentative that he's going to break camp with the team. I think he's much more likely to sit down there for at least a month. But he destroyed every level he went to, and it wouldn't take, like, if he's mashing this first month in AAA, like, and they go, well, what does he have left to prove? We're trying to win another World Series. Like, yeah, like they probably do bring him up, and he could be fantastic. Obviously, I don't think he's going to hit for the kind of batting averages that he hit for in the minor leagues, but I do think he's going to hit for power, and I do think he's going to steal bases, and so I have no problem drafting Langford.
Langford looks like, he's just got everything. Big time tools out of Florida. And look, right now we have Ezekiel Duran penciled in as the DH. I think both of us have gotten the question recently in chats about his status. Yeah. I saw that you agreed that like it's just hard to find everyday PT.
If he got moved, yeah.
What's that?
If he got moved somewhere, like,
yeah. But on that club, I'm just not sure it's there. And then, while you don't necessarily want a 22-year-old Langford DHing, if he's clubbing the ball in AAA the way we saw him, they're just going to have to, and they'll figure it out. And Adelise can get a day at DH, and Carter can, and Leote can even if they want to try Langford in center. Or Leote can even get some days off. I love Leote, you do too. But like, he's not.
Leote becomes a fourth outfielder if this is, the way things are looking.
Possibly. He's such a good defender, man. I don't know.
He's a great bias defender, for him. How do you high. Keep? And this is all contingent on, guys staying healthy, right? Mm-hmm. First and foremost, and like Evan Carter actually producing at the level that we saw him producing in
Garcia
in the playoffs.
And Garcia, because I'm still holding firm.
Just stop. He's like
no. Okay, jokes aside. If he doesn't hold that walk rate, how are you not concerned? I think he has to hold the walk rate gains. Adelise Garcia went from 6 to 10%.
He plays no matter what. Like, it's just like
he plays if he's toting like an 88 WRC plus, striking out 30% of the time. No way,
because defensively he's good, and they will just.
But they're all good.
Like, he would have to for half a season carry that to lose his job.
Depends how well Langford and Carter are playing. I'm just saying. I've taken my fat L's on Adelise.
You're going to keep taking them, apparently.
I'm going to, because I'm still terrified if that walk rate doesn't hold. If you can guarantee me that the 10% walk rate holds, I can get behind Garcia. Otherwise, I'm going to continue to keep taking losses until he flops, which he eventually will. And so in 4 years, when he's finally done, I'll get my victory lap going.
8 years down the road.
It ain't going to take that long. He's 31 next year. I have never been wrong about Adelise Garcia.
No, never.
Never. Let's move on. So we talked to the Jacksons, Chourio and Holliday, and Wyatt Langford. By the way, there's another Jackson rising too, Jackson Merrill, who we're not going to talk about here. He is being drafted, but I really don't see a clear path for him. Some of these other guys you probably won't either. I just chose 10 guys. He was a cutoff. I chose Ethan Salas over him as far as the Padre we're going to talk about. But we're going to talk about Paul Skenes first, the number 1 overall pick. He's going around pick 278. I think that's fair. I don't think that that's too out of pocket for Paul Skenes to take a shot in draft champions, because even if he misses a month, I'll take 4 months for a pick 278. Do you think Paul Skenes is up relatively quickly? I know the Pirates aren't really competitive, but do they have any reason to hold him down if he goes to AAA and has a good first 3 to 5 weeks?
Yeah, I think he's going to be up fairly early. I don't think he breaks camp with the team. They will play the service time games with him unless he signs some sort of deal, which I can't imagine.
He had 7 innings, right?
Yeah,
he didn't even get a Langford type. They just wanted to try him out. They shut him down. They were open about it and say, hey, we saw what we wanted to see. Our boy's good. He gets he gets to go on the shelf now. So he needs some time. And none of it was at AAA either. So I think he needs about a month. But pick 278 for Paul Skenes. Like I said, 5 months of him for that. I'm in.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. Again, I want to reiterate with people, like, especially if you're in draft champions, do not draft all these guys together. Like,
No.
One. One, maybe two.
Maybe two if things break for you, and one of them is super late. Because after Skenes here, every other guy's 500 and later. So if you take one of the 4 early guys and then one of these 6 later guys, I can get behind that. But if you're taking Chourio, Holliday, and Skenes, just Venmo me your money because you're burning it.
Yeah.
And I'll spend it better.
You're going to be in trouble. Yeah. Because, I mean, one, you're counting on these guys to hit. And the hit rate on prospects is not as great as we always expect it to be.
No.
And 2, like, you could get hit with a rash of early injuries and all of a sudden you're taking zeros. And those zeros kill you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I would not take multiple of these guys. And if I were going to take multiple of these guys, I would take one hitter and one pitcher. Yes. I would not load up on 2 hitters or 2 pitchers, things like that. So
completely agree. So let's keep moving on.
That being said, I have no problem taking Skenes. I think he's going to be up. I think he's going to be pretty good too.
I mean, he's the cheapest of the 4 and thus my favorite. Even though he's the pitcher, I know pitchers are scary, but I love Paul Skenes. Paul S. Of course, I have to draft him obviously, automatically.
Makes sense, yeah.
Let's talk about his former teammate in college, Dylan Cruz, who's going, 250 picks after him, 507. Like, I get it, he's in Washington, but like we said, Skenes is in Pittsburgh. So neither's on a competitive team. And I do believe that Cruz himself, isn't likely to break camp unless he comes out with a big deal. But he was just fine. Like, he was great in A-ball, struggled a little bit in AA with his small sample, 20 games, 85 plate appearances. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we've been so, praiseworthy of everyone that dominated in their tiny samples that we do have to note that it didn't go as well in AA. I don't really care about that. I think Cruz, 4.5 months for pick 500. Is that not worth it? I mean, how long do you think he's going to need in the minors? Month and a half?
I mean, here's the thing. If you did a first-year player draft prior to the draft or right after the draft, you were taking Cruz first overall, right? And now he's probably going to be going 3rd overall, or 4th, or maybe even 5th, depending on where international counts. So I don't know what's changed that
Yamamoto could.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what has necessarily changed in terms of his long-term profile for Dynasty. That means he shouldn't even be going above, guys like Skenes and Langford. So I love Cruz. For this year, I don't know that he's up before June or July at the earliest. So
I don't think that's impossible. I don't think it's impossible. You're wrong on that. No, I'm saying what you're saying. I don't think that's out of pocket at all. There is an avenue. I do think where it is quicker.
There's a clear path to playing time because there is nobody blocking him on the Nationals.
Exactly.
But they're also an organization that loves the service time games, and they're not going to be good. Like there is a world where Pittsburgh is good this year.
I agree.
There's a world where the Brewers are good this year. There is no world where the Washington Nationals are good.
How dare you say that about a team that has Josiah Gray and Mackenzie Gore, your 2 favorite pitchers in the
My
universe.
Boys, yeah.
And CJ Abrams.
They could each win 20 games for the Nationals, and they still wouldn't win 80 games.
Horseshit. If they both won 20 games, then this team, there's no way they're going to get double Steve Carlton's where they win 40 games with 2 guys and then they win 65 on the year. No way, because the offense still needs to support them.
Hot takes for breakfast.
Hot takes for breakfast. By the way, are the Nats not your favorite team? I mentioned Gore and Gray, C.J. Abrams, Luis
Yeah,
Garcia, Carter
I love.
Kieboom. You're a big Nats guy.
They're
I'm
all
just
my boys.
realizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we should really take your opinions of them pretty seriously because you're very dialed in on what they got going on. I agree. They're not going to be very good. They could keep him down for a while, but at pick 507, even if you only got 4 months, if he's out down there for 2 months, obviously, again, you need some good luck with your health and everything so that you're not burning that spot when you can't put anybody in. But you can probably afford to have Cruz parked for 2 months, get him for the summer, and be worth pick 507. Are you drafting him down there?
Probably not.
Okay. Just too
Yeah.
long potential to
Yeah.
be out?
And there's a chance like he's just not out this year at all. So like I just
He'd have to fall on his face, wouldn't he?
probably
22 years old at AA? I think he'd have to die.
you have to die. I mean, it's the Nationals. Like I just don't trust the organization at all. Like so
I don't want him to die, by the way. That was not an advocation for that. I'm just saying I think something pretty bad would have to happen. You're right that like they're a team that definitely does stuff like that, but I just think
like if he's up in mid-August, think about like just by getting a part-time player, like how much more production you're gonna have gotten over the course of the year. Like it just to me, like there's just I mean, I guess if you haven't taken any of those guys and you've already and you are you've been very, very safe about your projections in terms of your at-bats and innings pitched and things like that, then yeah, you take the gamble. And if he never comes up, he never comes up. But I hate taking a guy like that. And then in July, you don't have a fifth outfielder to play.
I know. And listen, I appreciate that we preach that, make sure people don't make mistakes by piling up too many guys that can't play for them. We've both been in situations where we didn't even necessarily do that, but then the injuries took over and all of a sudden we're looking up on May 1st and we're like, I don't have a corner right now. So I get it. But you can have a gamble or two with pick 500.
Absolutely.
I think one of these guys, and Cruz isn't going to be yours. That's fair. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to switch the order here, even though the numerical order is a little different. Because we're talking Washington, let's move James Wood above Colson Montgomery for a second. They're one pick apart, 545 and 544 respectively. But my guess is if you don't like Cruz, you probably don't like Wood, although they were both been at AA. What do you think about James Wood coming off a nice 2-level season at high in AA, where he cooked at both? He'll be 21 next year. He's a power speed guy. I think power first. A lot of swing and miss in his game, but the dude, I mean, he's a force too. 6'6", 250, absolute hoss. What do you think of James Wood? Any interest for him this year?
I kind of feel the same way. I think Wood has a chance to get up a little bit sooner than Cruz, but the strikeouts are concerning. This wasn't a guy that we expected to necessarily strike out at a 30% clip. He struck out a 33% clip in AA. So
it's a big jump up in swing strike rate too. I might add 15%, easily a high of any level except for his complex league at 18 when it was a 25% swing strike rate, which he was 18 and it was his first taste of pro. So James Wood, swing and miss is there. At least he takes the walks that counterbalance. He does have the power and speed, but he could be one of those volatile profiles that takes some time.
Yeah, and I mean, I still, for Dynasty, I still love all these guys, right?
Yes.
Just because
we're talking this year specifically.
Yeah, just because I wouldn't take them in a draft Champions League doesn't mean I wouldn't, love to have them on my Dynasty League teams. And I do have a lot of James Wood on Dynasty League teams, but I think for 2024, I just think, strikeout rate like that, and being on an organization like the Nationals who don't care if they're good or not at this point. So I'm probably just going to pass and hope that I get to see it at some point for my Dynasty League teams and not worry about it for my redraft ones.
That would be fun to get to see James Wood up at some point in the summer. Pretty much not taking James Wood in redraft here in these draft champions. But I think I would take Cruz in the 400s even. I just want to be clear that I'm a good bit higher on Cruz than Wood for this year, because I agree with your original point with Cruz. Like, he was the number one guy, unquestioned. I understand why some people might have like if you take Skenes, I'm not cutting on you. You take Yamamoto, that's a totally different thing. I totally get that because he's supposed to come over and be an ace. But if you're talking about just the draftees last year, if you take Langford, I get that. But this notion that Langford has unquestionably passed Cruz because of what he did in that small sample,
Yeah, that's
that's what I
silly.
just don't agree
Yeah.
with. And so I still really, really love Cruz. I know there was rumors, and I love Max Clark. I'm excited about what the Tigers got, but there were rumors that one of the LSU guys was going to fall to 3, and I was desperately praying. I would have taken Skenes or Cruz for my Tigers all day long. So I love both those guys. I would really go for Cruz this year, not so much James Wood. Colson Montgomery, got to see him at the Fall League. He's a White Sox. For those that don't know, your boy Paul DeYoung, didn't put him on the rundown. Didn't think we really needed to do a Paul DeYoung breakdown, but he
Of
did
course
sign
we
over
do.
there. And he and Nicky Lopez are really blocking off the middle infield there, and they're going to keep Colson Montgomery out of playing time. I don't think that's the case. Finishing school is what we often refer to AFL as, right? Kind of your last.
Yep.
Not always. Like sometimes there's young guys that go there. Our boy Austin Riley, remember we talked about seeing him there and falling in love. It took him another 2 years to get to the majors. But a lot of times it's the guys that are going to be up the following year. I think Colson Montgomery's one of those guys. He spent a month and a half in AA, acquitted himself well. He'll be 22 next year. Are you picking him at pick 544? Do you think the White Sox have him up in a timely fashion at all?
I think he could be up fairly early. I don't know that he's going to be a guy that is up, day one at all. Like, I don't think there's really any shot he's up day one.
Especially with where they're at, right? Like they're really, you can envision a world. I'm not saying that we need to pretend that the Nats are good, but you can envision a world where a handful of breakouts happen and they're like a low to mid 70s win team, which is just kind of your run of the mill crappy team. Like they won 71 last year. If the Nats won 78 this year, that would not be crazy. The White Sox were terrible last year. I don't see how they're not terrible again this year. So there's no rush to get Colson Montgomery up.
Especially because they have made it pretty clear they will trade anybody.
Correct.
And the guys that have been most rumored are their best players, right?
Exactly. So I agree there. But then conversely, does that then open the door for Montgomery to play for 5 months?
I don't know, because are they, if they're actually tearing it down to the
are they going to put Lamos in?
Are they going to want to start a guy's clock like that? Unless Colson Montgomery decides he's going to sign a deal. I don't know that they're going to. So I think there are definitely people who are talking about Montgomery as a guy hey, this is the guy you need to get. He's going to be up really early. The rules for helping bring these guys up are all around rookie of the year voting, right? If you're not going to bring a guy up day one, you're setting him back, which means then you're setting the team back in terms of getting those high picks for rookie of the year voting.
Yeah, so, it's kind of either if you don't get them up right away, then it reverts back to the old school of just probably leave them down if you're a crappy team, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know that Montgomery is up early enough to warrant being super excited by him. But he, like you said, he's going 544, fine. That there's no harm in missing that pick. So if that's your dude, then go for it.
And he's interesting. Colson Montgomery's got some real pop. He is kind of an offensive guy only, or a power guy only. Doesn't really bring any speed to the table. And so I think he's got to hit for some decent average to really be a fantasy force. At that pick count, we're talking 544, it's not going to kill you. Probably other guys I'd rather take a shot on. But I am intrigued by him. Got to see him at Fall League and then saw some interviews from Fall League with him and, came away. I think this guy has a good idea of what's going on and could be a fun hitter. I just don't know if I want anything White Sox related this year.
Really good plate skills. We're talking about a guy with
great plate skills.
Yeah, 21% strikeout rate, 15% walk rate at AA last year. Got a little bit unlucky in the BABIP department. I think he probably should have hit for a little bit better average in AA. So I think he's one of those guys, I think he's Marcus Semien-esque. Obviously not the same player.
I like where you're at with that.
But the kind of, he could be, if he reaches his, preferred outcome like that, he could be a Marcus Semien type.
And right down to the fact that he needs to improve his defense if he wants to stay at short. So we're talking earlier Semien when he was showing promise, but the defense was just horrendous. He figured out his defense and became an all-world player. Colson has the bat. Colson Montgomery, he has a bat foundation. Those plate skills are incredible, like you said. He is not a true shortstop. They might, if he gets time this year, it's part of like, hey, we suck. We might as well just play him there. But I think his home might be second or third in the future. So
and that could keep him down for longer, right?
Exactly.
Like sometimes it's a team being, dicks in terms of like saying like, oh, he needs to work on his
defense. Yeah.
But sometimes it's actually true. And I think this is one of those situations where it could actually be true.
I agree. Sometimes I say he needs to work on his defense and you look up and he's a DH and you're like, hey, wait a minute. I don't know. I don't know about all of that. But Colson Montgomery does need some work there. Let's talk in the same division here, but a team that's competing is Minnesota, and they've got Brooks Lee on the way up, and he's a really interesting guy. They just keep churning out talent. Their next, feat would be to keep a great prospect healthy. They bring them up, they tantalize, they look exciting. Now let's try to keep one on the damn fucking field. But, I'm not bitter about all the years of drafting Buxton and Royce Lewis. I swear. That's not why I'm dropping F-bombs at all. But Brooks Lee, AA, AAA season, nice pop, little bit of speed thrown in, not too much to be honest. You're talking about like probably a 6 to 10 stolen base chip in, upper teens homers to 20 maybe, but decent batting average, kind of do everything. Switch hitter. Can he be up quick enough to merit a 641 pick for you? Brooks Lee of the Minnesota Twins, or is he blocked off by the fact that Polanco has to play second? The Correa with his contract is playing short, and there's no room at the inn for Brooks Lee. Where do you come out with him?
I don't think Polanco's blocking anybody. I don't at this point. Like, he was a great player. Sure, why not? Like, and this is also reliant on like all those guys in the infield and the outfield, I guess, staying healthy, which none of them can do. So, like, Brooks Lee is one of those guys where, like, at first I was like, no, there's no way I'm drafting Brooks Lee. I actually kind of would, because I think there is a pretty good chance. He had 168 plate appearances at AAA. He didn't hit particularly well, but hit for some power. He showed really, really good plate skills with a 17% strikeout rate, 9% walk rate. The question is, can he play enough defensive positions? Because like, he's not going to play shortstop as long as Correa is healthy. So is he versatile enough defensively where he could play second base, play third base?
Played a bit of third last year, so that seems to be the avenue that they're looking at. Of course, that's Royce Lewis's spot, but that goes back to your original point about, can Royce stay healthy? I love Royce, but can he stay healthy? And if they stick with the Buxton DH thing, do they put Royce in center? Yeah. And then to get Brooks Lee at third as a way to get him, to get Lee in the lineup. So I think at pick 6 something, I'm in on him. 641 with the health of Minnesota's players. I think Brooks Lee, for his skills, of course, too, not just because they can't keep anybody healthy, but also because he's a quality prospect with some promising skills. I think he's a worthy draft pick in Draft Champions at 641.
Yeah, the only thing is he like just doesn't have like premier upside, right? Like he's not he's
accumulator.
He's definitely an accumulator. He's not one of these guys like the ones we've been talking about, like Langford or Dylan Cruz, that like, oh, if they come up and hit, like they're gonna be huge difference makers. Like, Brooks Lee is more of a guy who, like, I think accumulator is a perfect term for him, right? He'll throw in some chipped in speed. He might hit for just below league average power, decent batting average, but like he needs that playing time in order to
that's really show his value.
Exactly.
And so that you might be underwhelmed, but again, if you get him at 641 and Brooks Lee comes up and plays 5 months for you, just having the body will help. But I agree that for his stats to look impressive, he's going to need to really play. All right, we got 2 guys going 700 and later, so they're obviously at the very, very end of your 50-round draft and hold. Round 47 here for Marcelo Mayer, who's going 700 on the button. Plays for the Boston Red Sox. They have an interesting situation over there. I don't really know what they've got going. Like they're a weird team right now. They've got some intriguing pieces, but then do they have a good offense or not? I don't know. Right now, 7 of their 9 projected starters are left-handed, with Story and Connor Wong being the only righties. That just seems like an odd fit for them right now. And then you look at Mayer, he's another lefty. So can he come up at any point this year and be a factor for them? He played at high in Double A last year, killed high A, struggled at Double A, 190 plate appearances with just a 63 WRC plus. BABIP was 220, so I think that was part of it. But also a ton of swing and miss, 26% K rate, 15% swing and strike, and his walk rate dropped to a career low 8%. So he was getting beat too. I can't just give him the BABIP excuse. I think part of that was he wasn't comfortable. So I think he might need a little bit more Double A seasoning and then Triple A. So I think we're looking at 4 months at the max with Mayer. But at pick 700, your 47th pick, is that okay? Do you like Marcelo Mayer in Boston at all for draft champions?
Yeah, I think Mayer is interesting because I don't think he's going to be a shortstop anyways. Eric Lagerhagen did a really good article on some of the top prospects on the defensive prowess. I think it's a really interesting thing to go read, especially if you're playing in Dynasty. I don't know that he doesn't have a very strong arm and he's not amazing defensively. So I think he's one of those guys that probably ends up at second base, which is perfect because they've got Story at shortstop. Story wants to play shortstop. And right now, I believe they've got Emmanuel Valdez.
Yeah. So second base kind of open right now.
Yeah, I think he has an opportunity. I think his path to playing time is actually pretty easy because as long as he hits it at, I don't know if he's going to start Double A or Triple A, but as long as he hits in the minor leagues, I think he could come up pretty early. Boston is a team that I think wants to compete. Hard to really understand exactly what's going on in Boston, but
exactly.
I think they do want to try to at least be competitive this year, and that's going to be a tall order in a division where they're the bottom feeder. They're the clear of the bottom team. With the Orioles and the Blue Jays and the Yankees and the Rays all looking like they could, be playoff contenders. So that being said, like if they want to be competitive and they don't block him off, the problem is if they bring someone else in, that's a sign that maybe Mayer isn't coming up. As of now, there hasn't been a lot of heat to anybody going to Boston, especially in the infield. So I could see a world in which Mayer is up or, around Memorial Day and a pretty good player. I mean, he's got pop, good plate skills. I think that I think he is, old Dustin Pedroia-esque, right? Like a guy who can hit for a pretty good power in spite of, not being like overly big dude. Probably not going to run a ton, maybe just chips and steals, but some good batting averages to go along with it. So, I like Mayer as a guy that you can take a gamble on because he's going that late.
Yeah, pick 700 for Marcelo Mayer is just so cheap that if you want to take the shot, you really don't even need more than 3-4 months to possibly get value from that. Again, just be careful with how many of those guaranteed timeout guys you're taking, right? And when we said don't pair multiple of these, we also mean the guys that are injured for a month, 2 months.
Yeah,
that's all included. When we say take 1, maybe 2 of these, we mean guys that have guaranteed time missed. Which for Marcelo Mayer, there is just no universe where he breaks camp. Nothing makes sense about that.
It is just as likely that he's not up before September than he's up, Memorial Day. So I think he will be up Memorial Day-ish, maybe in June sometime. But there's a realistic chance you get absolutely nothing from the guy this year. And every year people draft rookies and they never make it to the majors. And this is definitely one of those guys that could never make it to the majors.
Absolutely. Never make. You mean ever or this year?
No, I'm this year. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
I
For
figured that's what you
2024.
meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are guys I don't draft. So like, while I don't have a problem with you drafting them, I will not be drafting them. Like, if you really like Mayer and you think that, hey, he's going to be up and he could be really good, or you just want to take a gamble late, I get it. I will not be drafting him unless we get some sort of news that changes things. He will not be on any of my teams this year.
Yeah, I'm generally the same. I have some exceptions. Every once in a while, I'll take a shot there. But for the most part, I'm just going to go. I mean, somebody like Jason Hayward's going 700. He just re-signed with the
Yeah.
Dodgers. I'd rather take his boring ass.
Yep.
I get it. People look around and they see Jet Williams, Justin Foscue, Marcelo Mayer. I can name a bunch of other prospects because there's a bunch down here. I'm taking Jason Hayward.
Yeah.
And when I first started Draft Champions, I would take a lot of the guys, the flashier guys. I've learned that oftentimes it's better to take the guy who's in the majors, who should at least get like 300 plate appearances. Like, just that alone has more value than taking a shot.
I learned my lesson a few years ago where, like, on May 15th, I was starting like Eric Sogard, at shortstop.
It just takes something like that once for you to really snap into, okay.
Especially when you're drafting infielders, right? And Mayer's an infielder. Typically what you're doing is you're drafting 3 guys per position.
Mm-hmm.
That means it only takes 2 injuries.
Yeah.
If you draft a guy you're stashing at one of those positions. So, like, I tend to lean towards, if I'm going to take a gamble of a guy like that, I'll take an outfielder. I'll take a pitcher. I might even take a catcher, because one, you're going to have more depth of those positions, or you don't mind taking the 0 at catcher if you're going to take it anywhere.
Yep, I think that's a great way to put it. Speaking of catcher,
yeah, you like that transition. Your
segues have been on fire lately. Mm-hmm. Let's get back to the Padres here. I say back to. I only mentioned Jackson Merrill. We didn't really talk Padres, but Ethan Salas was who I chose over him to kind of highlight here, just because of how unique he is. It's like truly unbelievable how crazy this guy is. He's like 9 years old. I think I raised his age from last time. I think I said he was 5 and had a Paw Patrol birthday party. But he's so young, it's unbelievable. Pick 739 on average. Obviously, people just taking like a random flyer. It's a catcher. He is literally 17. He might have actually turned 8. No,
he's 17.
He's still 17 right now. He's 17 and a half even.
He doesn't turn 18 till June 1st.
Yeah, literally today, he is 17 and a half. So for those of you that are lame and celebrate half birthdays, stop doing that. But today would be Ethan Salas's. It's not a thing. But anyway, 17 years old, played at A, high A, double A. Only got a week at double A and high A each. But already a brilliant catcher. Does he appear in the majors this year, Ethan Salas?
No.
Okay, so then you're definitely not drafting a catcher.
No,
it's not.
He's 17. Like,
is this a wasted pick?
It absolutely is a wasted pick. Like,
because even if he gets up, he's not going to do
September.
Anything.
Yeah,
and he'll be like a good defender, but draft champions leagues don't count framing.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing: like, in the state of California, you cannot legally work past 10 p.m. if you're under the age of 18.
He's out in the 7th inning every night.
They're gonna have to pull him. They're speeding up the game just so they can get Ethan Salas in games before 10 p.m. So, I just don't see a world in which an 18-year-old makes it to the majors. I think next year he is going to be in the majors.
Sure. Which is still crazy, by the way.
Yeah, which is insanity, because he will be 18 years old for the first half of the season almost.
Nuts.
But yeah, there's literally no way. If it happens, I guess it's it'll be one of the coolest stories that we've had here. So,
exactly. I will gladly take the fat L on that. Y'all can rub it in my face as much as you want. I wouldn't care. But we're
talking about an 18-year-old or 17-year-old, 18-year-old that, like, not only does he have to make it to the majors, he then has to be good in the majors, and it's such a tall ask. Like, I just can't imagine it happening.
I think he can major league catch right now. I don't believe he can necessarily AAA hit right now.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point.
So that's where we're at with him. But super fun prospect. In the grand scheme, love him. So excited about Ethan Salas. In a redraft situation for this year, want zero to do with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So be careful. Do not take him. All the other ones we said, even if Justin and I don't love him, we understand Chourio, Langford, Holliday, Skenes, Cruz, Wood, Montgomery, Lee, and Mayer picks. Ethan Salas makes no sense as a pick. Don't do it.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's 10 prospects with zero major league experience that we're looking at this year that have some different places that they can fit. Some of these prices are going to change in spring too. Don't be surprised if Wyatt Langford, if he's looking like he is going to break camp, then he's a top 100 pick without a doubt. I'm not saying.
And I think Jackson Holliday is going to be, I think once
he would skyrocket.
I think Jackson Holliday will be a top 75 pick and warranted. I think that Jackson Chourio, if there is talk that he could break the camp of the team, he's going to be top 100 picks. So and
we'll monitor his stock. We'll take a couple weeks to look at it because drafts don't go into the board until they're done. So let's wait 10 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks, try to kind of get some time in there to get some drafts. Right now, there's 19 drafts.
10 weeks.
10 weeks will be a little bit too long. 10 days to 2 weeks. There's 19 draft champions in right now. Let's at least get 25 plus in there, and then we'll really see what Chourio's price is doing with this contract. But then, like you said, it could hit another jump if he then breaks camp too, or he's angling toward breaking camp. So lots of interesting stuff. Rookies are now a hot thing. I don't think you can fully ignore them anymore, right? There used to be a thing where people would be like, I don't even mess with the rookies because they're just such a crapshoot. Now they're such an instrumental part that you got to be well versed on them. Doesn't mean you got to take a bunch, but you should at least know what's going on with them. And then there's rookies that do have experience that we didn't talk about. Like Evan Carter, I believe, is still a rookie, along with other guys that appeared this year. We can do another episode on them, but I really wanted to talk about these guys with no experience because we used to never really take those guys even in draft champions, and now they are a real piece of people's drafts. So if you're taking one right now, who's your absolute favorite at their price that you would take consistently in DCs?
Holliday.
I was trying to predict that. I figured that's where you were going, and that's fair. 192.
I mean, Langford is the only one I think I've actually taken, but I've only done gladiators.
And you took him well past ADP.
Yeah,
our room pushed him down, and you said, "Fine, he's been there for 3 rounds. I'm going to finally take him."
I mean, especially with the ADP having gone up, I think it was like 100 picks over where the current ADP is. So, and that was really a lot to do with just the value. So
he's just sitting there at the top, teasing everybody. You said, "Fine, I'll take a shot." Yeah, Gladiator. I agree on Holliday. By the way, that he is so intriguing because there is such a good chance that 192 goes up. Skenes is my favorite, but Holliday's right there. Going to be a fun group, though, and don't sleep on Cruz at 507. I like him a little bit more than Justin there for this year. We both love him long-term, and none of these guys are getting shade long-term. If you're in Dynasty, they're all coveted and very difficult to get to. But Justin, I want you to have a great weekend.
Before we go.
Oh, yes. Before we go. Something for me.
Yes. So we've been gauging interest in a Sleeper in the Bus podcast.
That's right.
Listeners Gladiator League. I'm going to reach out to NFBC this weekend and see if that's something they'll even set up for us. And if you want to get into it, jump into the Discord over on our Patreon. I think it's a $4.20 tier because we're children. But and if for some reason you can't get in, you don't want to join Discord, something like that, just
hit us up.
Give me a DM on Twitter at just Mason FWFB or Paul at Sporer, and we'll try to see if we can get you the link once it becomes active. Right now, we've already had I think 12 people, say they want in, so there's not going to be a ton of spots. We could do a second one if there are a bunch of people who are part of the Discord that want to jump in. So
we're going to be getting that going. I say Justin's the planner. Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
And that's obviously contingent on NFBC being willing to set one up for us. I don't know that they will because it's an overall contest. Though I guess we could always just set up individual leagues that aren't part of the overall. So,
or just say, can you create a new one right now? And we all jump into it. Even if it's not like
That
set
maybe.
aside for us. So maybe we have to do that. But either way, we'll get together, get a bunch of us in one. That sounds great. I can't wait to get it going. And thank you as always for setting all that up. It makes life so much easier. You're always setting up the leagues for us and getting everything situated. But yeah, I'm excited to do a Gladiator with y'all. We can do a DC if people want to do that. So express your interest. If you want to do DC or Gladiator, we're going to do the Gladiator first. But if then we get a bunch of people that want to do a DC, we can get in one of those too. So, all right,
Absolutely.
Justin, have a great weekend. I also want to point out, probably next week we're going to start a third episode in the middle of the week.
Let's do it.
I think we're going to be going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If Wednesday works for you, that'll be the day. It's going to be 3 times a week consistently. And then when Jason gets back in, then we'll have 4 episodes a week. So just want to announce that too. So for those of you that listened late, you can get in a draft and you know about an extra episode coming. So have a great weekend, Justin. I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.